All right, so you're locked into the deep dive, and you're ready to really get into the nitty-gritty of what Manchester United's future might look like with Ruben Amorim at the helm.
That's right.
And, big question, right? Can he actually get them back to that Premier League glory? So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today, all the biggest hurdles he's going to face and, maybe some of those paths to success. And we're going to be pulling all this from, a lot of the recent analysis and discussion that's already out there about the club.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah, so I guess the big question that we want to leave you with as we get into this is, can Ruben Amorim realistically make this happen? Can he bring Premier League glory back to Old Trafford?
Well, one thing that really jumps out when you look at all this is how big of a task this is for Amorim.
Yeah.
The sources are all saying the same thing. The squad is so inconsistent, and that is going to be his biggest challenge right out of the gate.
It's true. I mean, it's a bit of a roller coaster watching them play, isn't it? Like 1 week they look amazing, and then the next week they're dropping points to teams that, on paper they should be beating.
Right, and when you look at why that is, the analysis points to a few things that are all kind of connected. Like,
Right.
You got these crucial players who are constantly getting injured.
Yeah.
Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, even Casemiro. These are big names, and every time they're out, it just throws the whole team off.
Yeah, you can't build any momentum or consistency when you're constantly having to adjust the lineup and the tactics because of injuries.
It disrupts everything.
And it's not just the defense either, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Like up front, you've got players like Højlund and Xerxes, and they're just not scoring enough. They're not giving you that consistent goal threat that you need to be a top team.
They need that reliable firepower.
Yeah, and then the midfield, it just feels a bit disjointed right now. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is obviously the creative force, but there's just so much debate about who should be playing alongside him and whether or not they can control the tempo of games.
Yeah, and that leads into another really important point. With Casemiro getting older, the sources are talking about a potential gap in that holding midfield role.
Yeah.
That player who sits in front of the defense, breaks up, attacks, wins the ball back.
Yeah, the enforcer.
Exactly. And most of the truly successful teams, they have a player like that.
Right. So for everyone listening out there, it all comes back to the basics, right? If Amorim wants to have any chance of success, he's got to fix these fundamental squad problems, the injuries, the lack of goals, the midfield issues, and he needs to find a long-term solution for that defensive midfield position.
100%. Those are the foundations.
Yeah. And from what we're seeing, the experts are saying that he's going to need to bring in players who fit his style, players who are reliable, who can make a difference week in, week out.
Yeah, new signings are going to be essential.
So let's talk about tactics, because when you look at what Amorim likes to do, that 3-4-3 formation is his go-to, right?
Right. It's his trademark. He's won trophies with it. But making that work in the Premier League.
Oh, that's tough.
That's a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
Especially with this Manchester United squad, there are a lot of question marks.
Yeah, for sure.
Like defensively, can a back three with Maguire, who can be a bit inconsistent, and Martinez, who's always picking up knocks, can they hold up against the quality of attacking players in this league?
That's a great point. And what about those wingback roles in a 3-4-3?
Vital positions.
They're so important because they're basically doing double duty, right? They need to provide width in attack, but they also have to track back and defend. And the question is, do Della or Mazraoui have the stamina, the attacking quality, and the defensive discipline to do that week in, week out against the best teams in the Premier League?
It's a big ask. And, the midfield balance within that system is another area that's being debated. Like, if he goes with a double pivot, which is basically two holding midfielders, who's the best partner for someone like Manuel Ugarte or Casemiro or even young Manu?
Right, because you need that balance. You need players who can shield the defense, but who can also contribute going forward.
Exactly. You need that mix of defensive solidity and creative spark.
And this is all crucial because if those wingback positions aren't filled with top quality players, particularly when you're facing teams like Manchester City or Liverpool who have these incredible wingers,
They'll get exposed.
that 3-4-3 can be ripped apart. So the experts are saying that to really make this system work at United, Amorim needs very specific types of players.
Exactly.
Like, firstly, a center back who's comfortable on the ball, someone who can start attacks from the back.
A ball-playing defender.
Yeah. And secondly, a world-class right wing back, someone who can match Luke Shaw's attacking sweat on the left and be just as solid defensively.
And finally, that creative midfielder who can take some of the pressure off Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, someone who can share the playmaking responsibility so the team isn't completely reliant on Bruno's brilliance.
That's a key one.
So it sounds like new signings are going to be absolutely vital, and that obviously leads us to the transfer market.
Yeah, the summer transfer window is going to be huge for Amorim, and it sounds like the experts are already speculating about who he might go after.
Yeah, there are some names being thrown around already. Like in defense, you've got Gonzalo Inacio from Sporting CP. He's supposed to be that ball-playing center back that Amorim really likes.
That makes sense.
And in midfield, the name that keeps coming up is João Neves from Benfica. He's young, he's dynamic, and people are saying that he'd be a perfect fit for Amorim's style of play.
Interesting. And up front, I mean, they desperately need a proven goal scorer, and the name that keeps popping up is Victor Osimhen from Napoli.
A big money signing.
Big money signing, but he guarantees goals.
Right. And it's not just about who's coming in, is it?
No, of course
No.
not. They need to make space.
They're going to have to move some players on to make room for these new signings and to free up some wages. And the names that are being mentioned are Mason Mount Lindelof,
Yes.
maybe even Casemiro and Eriksen.
Big names potentially on the way out.
So for everyone listening, it's clear that Amorim could be about to completely reshape this Manchester United squad. This isn't just about tweaking a few things. This could be a massive overhaul.
Absolutely. But even if he gets the right players in and he manages to implement his tactical ideas, there's still one massive obstacle in his way.
Yeah,
The Premier League, it's the most competitive league in the world, and it's relentless.
it's a different animal.
It's a different animal altogether. And just look at the other teams he's going to be up against. You've got Manchester City with Pep Guardiola. They're still the benchmark.
Yeah, they're the team to beat.
Then you've got Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp might be gone, but Arne Slot is in, and they're going to continue to play that high-pressing, high-intensity style. And then you've got Arsenal, young, hungry team. They've come a long way.
And you can't forget about Chelsea and Tottenham. They're both in transition, but they've got the resources and the potential to be right up there. And then you've got teams like Newcastle and Aston Villa who are pushing for those Champions League spots. So the competition is fierce.
It's never-ending.
And the experts are saying that if United want to compete at the top, they need to improve in a few key areas.
For sure.
Like their away form, especially against the other big teams, that's been a real problem for them. They need to start picking up more points on the road.
Yeah, and they need to find a consistent goal scorer.
That 20-goal-a-season striker.
Right. It's incredible that they haven't had a player hit that mark since Wayne Rooney. If you want to challenge for titles, you need that kind of firepower.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, they need to get fitter. They need to be able to play at the intensity that Amorim demands for the full 90 minutes. His system is all about pressing and high energy, and if the players aren't fit enough, they're going to struggle.
It's physically demanding for sure.
So let's be realistic, okay? What can we actually expect from Amorim in the short term? Is he going to walk in and suddenly turn Manchester United back into the dominant force they used to be?
I don't think anyone's expecting miracles. This is a long-term project. But the experts are saying that there are some achievable goals for next season.
Like what?
Well, first and foremost, they need to finish in the top 4.
Champions League qualification.
Absolutely. That have to be the priority.
Rare.
They also need to show that they're buying into Amorim's tactical philosophy and that the team is becoming more defensively solid.
Okay, so those are the short-term goals. What about 2-3 years down the line? What does success look like then?
Then it's about building a squad that can challenge City and Liverpool for the title. It's about winning trophies, whether that's the FA Cup, the Europa League, or even the Premier League. And it's about bringing back that fear factor, that aura of invincibility that Manchester United used to have.
When teams were terrified to go to Old Trafford.
Exactly. They need to make Old Trafford a fortress again.
So it seems like the consensus is that if Amorim gets the support he needs, both in the transfer market and in terms of time, he could really turn things around at Manchester United. This isn't a quick fix, but it's a project with a lot of potential.
Definitely. But what do you think, listener? You've heard all the challenges, all the potential solutions. Where do you stand? Do you think Ruben Amorim can bring Manchester United back to the top of English football?
Sure.
It's a question worth pondering as we see how this all unfolds.
And that's a wrap for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious.
And keep exploring.